Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called Bosses Are Panicking. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel for free. You can also like, comment, and follow us. We're going to have a lot of great celebrity interviews coming up, so make sure to click on that notification bell so you can be notified every time we upload a new episode. So with that, let's get started. Bosses and companies are panicking everywhere now. Why is that? Because employees and prospective employees who are going to try and apply at these companies are now refusing to tolerate the sort of things that they tolerated before the pandemic. Now, everybody wants to say it's because of the unemployment money they're pumping into the economy, but that's only part of it. There's much more going on that people don't want to acknowledge. A new study just came out that said that 40% of employees will quit if they're not allowed to continue working remotely. That's almost half the working population. Think about that. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this, but one of the major reasons is that the pandemic has changed the world. Some companies and bosses are aware of this change, and they're evolving and changing their company policies with this change. Others are refusing to change, and they're trying to stick to the past, the old policies of yesterday. Now, they could get away with that back in the day, but now after the pandemic, it's a different world. You know, the world that used to exist doesn't exist for a lot of companies. So some companies, of course, are creating hybrid work schedules that allow employees to stay at home for part of the week and come in for other days. Now, that's reasonable and that's very accommodating. And a lot of employees are good with that. They're green lighting that. That seems to be a work schedule model that seems to make most people happy most of the time. But you have other companies that are insisting that employees all come back to work and they sit in their cubicles. And this is causing very significant employee unhappiness. Why? Because employees have grown accustomed to avoiding toll roads and avoiding bridge tolls and avoiding all the parking fees, all the expenses of coming to work and all the time lost. You know, the countless hours sitting in traffic that aren't very productive. And now that their bosses are demanding that they come back, this is causing a lot of unhappy employees to start sending out their resumes as they start looking for new jobs. The place where you see a lot of bosses panicking is in the hospitality industry. That means bars and restaurants. Now, for decades, bars and restaurants have been abusing their employees incredibly. You know, it was almost a given that if you worked in a bar or restaurant, they would torture you. First, they got their political lobbyists to create legislation which allowed them to pay their staff, their waiters, their wait staff, less than minimum wage. Now, they would always promote the lie that you can make a lot of money with tips. And on some rare occasions, in some rare places, you could make really good money. You know, every time they hire a waiter or a waitress, they would repeat this lie. You can make good tips here at this bar and restaurant. But those great tips are rare. And when the economy was bad, it would get even worse. This lie built up tremendous resentment and hatred over the years during and after the pandemic, and this resentment just grew. Because of it, people are now refusing to work at bars and restaurants in large numbers. So, what are the bars and restaurant owners doing now? Well, these geniuses are telling another lie. They're dramatically raising the hourly wages to attract people back. But what they're not telling them is that these wages increases are only temporary and they'll be reduced down the road when things normalize again. It's just another lie added to the decades of lies that bars and restaurant owners have been telling their employees all along. You can only treat employees badly for so long until karma comes back and punishes you, and that's what's happening now. There's a lot of karma at work out there now. Take police departments, for example. Cities across the country have been abusing policemen and police departments for more than a year by defunding them or removing their legal protections, by eliminating their immunity from liability, or by reducing their staffing. So what's happening now? Well, now police are quitting or retiring in massive numbers, or they're calling in sick, or they're ignoring felony crimes being committed right in front of them because they've been told by the politicians to stand down and not enforce the law. You know what else some politicians are doing? They're actually launching investigations against police officers who do enforce the law, who try to do their jobs. There are videos on social media of cops sitting in their parked cars doing absolutely nothing while pedestrians just a few feet away are getting shot at by cars driving right past them. And the police don't do anything. Look at it from the police officer's perspective. If they do respond, A, they may get sued. High likelihood they're going to get sued. B, they don't have any immunity, so these lawsuits will be at the police officer's expense to defend. And C, their superiors have told them that they'll launch career-threatening investigations against them for responding to some of these felonies. They don't support the police anymore, and because of that, nobody wants to apply to work in these departments anymore. Everywhere we go, we hear bosses and companies panicking and complaining about not being able to hire people or find employees. You know what we're not hearing? We're not hearing those same complaints from bosses and companies that have been treating their employees really well all along. Companies like Costco and Google. You never hear anyone complaining about working for those companies and not wanting to go back to work for them. Why is that? Because generally speaking, these companies have been treating their employees really well, really fairly, really lucratively over the years. So their employees never built up this enormous well of resentment and hostility against them, and consequently, they're not having problems hiring people. What a shock. Who thought it was just that easy? Treat your people well, they'll treat you well. So what will all these panicking bosses end up doing? Well, there are only two things they can do. One is they can change their policies and their behavior and the way they treat their employees, or two, they'll end up going out of business. Those are their only options. That's just the way it is. Change or die. Welcome to the new business environment. With that, I want to thank you for watching. I want to tell you that we're going to have more great celebrity interviews and more breaking news stories coming up in the future. So we encourage you to subscribe to our free channel and click on the notification bell so you can get notified every time we post a new episode. Thank you for watching, and we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.